going to sing a Steve Goodman song now. This is actually one that Steve says we wrote together, but I still think it's his song, you know. Me and him was in New York City, and boy, things were popping for us like crazy. At the time, everybody said you can't stay in Chicago and get a national recording deal, you know. And here Steve and I went off to New York City, and within 24 hours, we signed to record companies, all because of our buddy Chris Christopherson. That's right. Christopherson had come through Chicago, and he was just starting to, you know, create a big stir, and people were hearing about his lyrics, his fabulous lyrics. And he played Richard Hargan's Quiet Night, and they offered Steve the opening slot for Chris. So I had a night off at Earl's, and I went on over there to hear Christopherson and hopefully get to meet him, because he was immediately became a writing hero of mine. His words just jumped off the page, and I could read a Christopherson lyric and tell you what the melody was just from the meter of the words. So anyway, Stevie ended up talking to Chris and his band one night, really late on a Sunday night. They were asking Steve if he had to play the rest of his songs for him, for Chris and the band, because they really liked that city, New Orleans and everything. Steve said, I will, but like, you got to get in a taxi cab right now and come over and hear my buddy across town. You know, and Chris said, he told me many years later, he says the last thing he wanted to do, you know, because they'd been out hitting the road pretty good. It was their last night, the quiet night, and he was kind of looking forward to going back to the hotel. But anyway, they decided to go with Stevie, and they got in a cab. Steve brought him over to the Earl of Old Town, where I was packing up my guitar. Earl had paid me for the week. Gus was cleaning up the bar. And Christopherson walks in with Steve Goodman, Paul Anka, and Samantha Eggers, the actors. And the whole place is empty now. We got the chairs are already up on the tables, and the floor has been mopped. We take down 4 chairs and put them in front of the stage, and I get up and do an entire set. When I got done, Chris bought me a beer and said, would you get up there and sing those same songs again? So a couple of months later, Goodman and I get to New York City, and we got a newspaper, Village Voice. As soon as we got off the plane, we discovered our new buddy Christopherson's playing at the bitter end. We went down there with our guitars and our suitcases, everything, went straight down to see Chris and say hello. Well, Chris was so happy to see us, he said, you guys got to get up on the stage and sing. He goes, I'm going to put you up there. He says, you could do 3 songs apiece. Well, the audience consisted of nothing but record executives and from other record companies, not the one Chris was signed to, every record company in town. And Carly Simon, it was her first performance, she was opening for Chris. So, and the rest of them were critics. Okay, that was the audience. And I get up and do 3 songs, and Jerry Wexler, the president of Atlantic Records, asked me to come to his office at 10 a.m. the next morning, and he offered me a recording contract. So I wasn't there 24 hours, you know, it was all because of Chris. Later that day, Steve got a record contract with Booty Records. But we returned back to Chicago, and we were like, you'd think that we walked on the moon, you know, because we were Chicago guys we both got record contracts in our back pocket, you know, and didn't have to leave Chicago to do it, you know. So it was an amazing time for us. So a couple months later, we were both back in New York, lives in our respective record companies, and we're sharing a room at the Hotel Roosevelt. So I decided I want to go down to the village and check out somebody and have a couple of beers. Steve wanted to stay in. So I go downtown. I had a great evening. I come in late. Steve is still up. He's sitting in the corner with just one light on. He's writing on hotel stationery. And I look over his shoulder and he says, "It was all that I could do to keep from crying. Sometimes it seems so useless to remain." And so I was feeling pretty good. And I jumped up on the bed and acted like I had an imaginary fiddle, and I said, "And you don't have to call me darling, darling," but they never really called me by my name. So Steve and I got a good laugh out of it, and we turned the whole thing into like we just come up with all the funny stuff, all the stuff that's in standard country songs, and made fun of it. And after about 3 verses, we kind of ran out of ideas. I said, "Man, let's go to bed," you know. So he gave up too, you know. He put the song away in his guitar case. A couple months later, Steve calls me up and says, "Hey, Johnny," I got it. I said, "What? You got what?" And he says, "That song, that darling song." He says, I finished it, man. I figured out what we didn't have." So he told me, he said it was missing, it didn't have anything about dead dogs, prison, mothers, getting drunk, and David Allen Coe, and purple pickup trucks. Sorry. After the years, you know, it kind of gets a little fuzzy, you know. So he sings it for me on the phone. That's what he'd always do when he finished a new song. He'd set the phone down, and sometimes he did this from a phone booth. How he got into a phone booth with a Gibson, I don't know. But he'd sing it for me on the phone, so I was usually one of the first people to hear a new composition by Steve. Now, I said to Steve, "Hey man," I said, "I was just goofing around." I said, that sounds to me like that's your song." I said, "That last verse makes the song, not just a joke, you know." And I said, "So you just take it, you put your name on it." He goes, "Really?" And I said, yeah. I said, "I was just goofing off." So anyway, a year later, David Allen Coe records it and it goes to #1. This is how you actually write a hit, okay? So, Steve calls me up and he goes, "Now do you want your name on it?" And I said, "Steve, I'm not an Indian giver." I said no in a minute. I said, it's your song, man. You came up with the one that sold the song, you know. And he said, "Okay." So he shows up at 10 a.m. the next morning with a pickup truck, 3 helpers, and they unload a 1942 Wurlitzer jukebox on my door. I still got it to this day. That's what Steve Goodman gave me for writing one line. He never even called me by my name. Yeah, let's play it for the folks. All that I could do to keep from crying. Sometimes it seems so useless to remain. You're the one who always tries to change me, and that is why I always stay. But I hang around as long as you will let me. You know I never mind. don't have to call me darling, darling, but you never even call me by my name. Well, I've seen my name a few times in the phone book, and on the neon sign above the bar that I used to own. There's only one thing that I'm really sure of. I'm gonna hear it when my Savior calls me home. Till then, I'm gonna hang around as long as you will let me. No, I never meant to stand in the rain. You don't have to call me darling, darling, but you never even call me by my name. You don't have to call me Waylon Jennings. No, you don't have to call me Charlie Pratt. You don't have to call me Merle Haggard anymore, even though you know you're on my fighting side. That's what I mean. Right there was about the time we ran out of ideas. And that's where we left the song and I went to bed in the hotel Roosevelt in New York City. Now comes the verse. This is the money maker here. Steve wasn't going to let this thing sit in his guitar case forever, you know. So he got real compact on it and put it all in one verse, sent it off to David Allen Coe. Ever since the dog got drunk and died and Mama and David Allen Coe went to prison, things around the farm don't seem the same. And you know, when they let Mama out last Tuesday, she drove her purple pickup into a train. Hang around as long as you will let me. I know I never meant to stand in the rain. You don't have to call me darling, darling, but you never even call me. I wonder why you don't call me. No, you never even call me by my